Congressman LaTourette, thanks for joining us. We're here on location in Cleveland this week. Glad that we could be here. I wanted to start by talking to you about an issue we've talked about a couple of times, and that is Obamacare, the president's signature piece of legislation. The latest effort has been to defund Obamacare, but unlike previous efforts that have united Republicans, this one has divided Republicans, with even some conservatives like Tom Coburn saying it was a dishonest, politically motivated attempt. Talk to us about what's going on here.
Well, most of the efforts to do the defunding come from Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, and he has gotten a few folks together to make the stand on Obamacare be the budget and how we get out at the end of the year on a continuing resolution, and basically saying that he's not going to let anything go forward in the United States Senate that funds the government for the rest of the year unless Obamacare is completely defunded. Now, what that leads to, if he's successful, is a government shutdown like the one that we had in 1995. And the reason that there's a division is Senator Rubio is kind of new to Washington. Senator Coburn is a classmate of mine from 1994. We were both in the Congress for the government shutdown in 1995. And if the Republican Party wants to make sure that they never get elected to anything again, they'll shut the government down.
So this isn't a political winner in your estimation for Republicans?
No, it's a big fat political loser, and quite frankly, it is designed to appeal to a small segment of the Republican voting base. And my attitude always was that they're going to vote for you anyway. And so yes, you don't want to alienate them, but at the same time, even John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, acknowledged after the president's re-election, Obamacare is the law of the land. Now, there have been a couple wrinkles, and I think that Republicans are not without an ability to do something about it, in that, we talked a couple weeks ago about the president and the administration delaying the corporate mandate that businesses had to provide insurance by the beginning of next year. And I thought it was a good strategy that Republicans had said, well, if it's, what's good enough for the corporations is good enough for the individuals. That is, I think, something that people can say, hey, that kind of makes sense. But this business about shutting down the government is I really think it's a non-starter.
Well, this isn't the only issue that has divided Republicans. Last week, House leadership pulled the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development bill from the floor, saying that it was an issue of timing. A lot of folks said that wasn't actually the case, and in fact, Hal Rogers, Republican congressman, came out and blasted his colleagues, saying the reason the bill was pulled was because Republicans weren't willing to go through with the deep budget cuts that they passed in the Ryan budget. This is now the second time leadership has pulled an appropriations bill off of the floor, supposedly because of timing, but most likely because of the impact of the budget cuts. Talk to us about what's going on here.
Well, anybody that believes that the Transportation HUD bill was pulled because of timing should, right after they watch this, call me, because I have some real estate down in Florida that I'd like to sell them. It has nothing to do with timing. What happened is that the Republican budget is $100 billion less than the Senate budget, and so it has pretty low spending levels. As a result, there's not any Democrat in the House of Representatives is going to say, oh, well, sign me up for that piece of legislation. So the strategy then becomes you have to pass the bill with 218 Republicans. That was not possible after they did their whip count, because you do have a group of Republicans who actually agree with the Democrats on this issue and say, you're not spending enough on infrastructure and transportation. And they would point to the American Society of Civil Engineers scorecard that says that all these bridges and roads in our country are getting D's and F's, and we had the bridge collapse in Minnesota, and so there's a group of those, but then there's a larger group of Republicans who thought it spent too much, and then there's a third group of Republicans who just vote no on anything. and so when you combine those three little clusters of Republicans, you don't have 218 votes. If you don't have 218 votes, you can't pass legislation. And it really is, if you put that together with the other appropriations bill that you talked about, together with the farm bill that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where they couldn't pass the farm bill, and so they divided it then into farm bill and then the SNAP program, the food stamp program. it's difficult for somebody observing this from the inside or the outside to figure out how these guys are going to govern. And that's what led Hal Rogers, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee from Kentucky. He just, I think he's at the end of his patience. And you know, he's been giving these marching orders. He writes bills that are in line with the numbers that he's been given, and his Republican colleagues still reject it.
Well, Republicans aren't the only ones who are divided.
Thank God.
Right, exactly. Recently, Max Baucus, the Democratic chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, announced that they were going to move ahead with a markup of comprehensive tax reform after the August recess. Supporters of comprehensive tax reform were thrilled. This has been a bipartisan process. It's been a bicameral process. People said, wow, maybe this could actually happen. Before you even had an opportunity to celebrate that, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer both came out, immediately rained on that parade, and said that they weren't going to support the Baucus effort unless it raised revenue, something that all of the parties involved in the process so far have said they're not willing to do. Is this the end of comprehensive tax reform?
No, I don't think so. I mean, so what happens now is both houses of Congress are off for about 5 weeks, and they're going to go home and collect opinions from their constituents and see what people are saying. I think what they're going to get an earful of people saying, why can't you guys do anything? Tax reform has a lot of constituencies, not just corporations, not just people who have money that would like it not to be taxed, but middle income people, low income people. There's a whole host of people that are in favor of tax reform. And I think Senator Reid and Senator Schumer are doing a little kabuki dance, where everybody's laying out their markers and territories. The sort of ray of good hope that shined through the clouds this past week was President Obama, in a speech down in Tennessee, actually indicated that he was willing to put corporate tax rates on the table in exchange for a discussion on more spending. Now, that's a posture on his part as well, but if people over August get the sense that there's an urgency to get this done, I think it's again, we've used the expression before, it's not dead, but I think they're about to call code blue over the intercom and ask for the heart cart to be wheeled in.
Well, on that happy note, we'll conclude for the week. Once again, thanks for joining us, Congressman.
Well, thank you, Chris, and I just want those that watch us, we're delighted to be here at the headquarters of McDonald, Hopkins in Cleveland, Ohio, and but we promise next week we will have our Capitol Dome again behind us.
Absolutely.